Back in June 2026, NASSP and my Cool Cat Teacher newsletter subscribers were surveyed about what they're doing with AI in their schools. When we asked what they needed most, the administrator's top answer wasn't tools or money. It was time. Time to sit down with their teachers and plan. Today, we're talking with Ronn Nozoe about the results of that survey and what it says about how schools are approaching AI this school year. This is Thought Leader Thursday, episode 973.
This is the 10-Minute Teacher Podcast with your host, Vicki Davis.
Today's show is sponsored by Ellis, a free tool from Children's Health Council that helps teachers think through tough student moments and find practical next steps. Tune in at the end of the show, and I'll tell you more about Ellis. Today, we're talking with Ronn Nozoe. He is the CEO of the National Principals Association. So Ronn has been a teacher, a principal, the deputy superintendent in Hawaii, and a leader in the U.S. Department of Education. Today, we are going to talk about what principals and leaders are saying about artificial intelligence in their schools. Ronn, first I have to say thank you for agreeing to do this survey. You and I both sent it out to all of our distribution lists to kind of take a pulse of what's going on. Our principals already talking a lot about this topic.
Vicki, thank you very much for having me. We're a member-driven organization serving about 17,000 school leaders across the country. And so, really hearing their input and feedback is really important to us. There's a lot of conversations at every level in the education continuum about the use of machine learning and artificial intelligence. And I'm really pleased, survey-wise, we're really pleased that there were significant, 7 out of 10 folks said, yeah, they're already immersed in it and moving forward with it and trying to do it well. But then there's also like 3 out of 10 respondents were like, we're not there yet. Of course, we want everybody to be at that phase where they feel comfortable and are moving forward, but gives us some really important information about what kinds of supports we can continue to provide, where we need to ramp up our efforts and where we need to sort of let people take it and run with it on their own.
One of the questions was, how confident do you feel about leading AI implementation in your school next year? There were roughly 18% who were like, yeah, I'm very confident. Now, granted, a little over 50% were somewhat confident, but I thought that was just interesting that not quite 20% felt but you know what? In some ways, as somebody who does AI every day, that actually makes me feel better because overconfidence in this world of AI, I kind of feel like it's a mistake. Like, how do you feel? Do you feel like anybody really has their hand on the pulse of like what's going on with AI?
We've been to a ton of principal conferences over the course of the past year, and almost everyone has had some strand or some speaker or some session focused on using artificial intelligence well. To your point, I think personal use-wise, our members are fine. Like people are using it, whatever. I think when the pressure comes to like, how am I doing this well in my school? Reading between the lines, I think a lot of that is more self-imposed pressure where our principals and assistant principals are really want to do a good job. And they're like, we never believe that we're there. We're always in search of the best. And so I think they're a little hard on themselves. I don't think they maybe don't feel as comfortable like, okay, we got a real system in place. That's part of the challenge, right? We were advocating for, hey, there needs to be some high level guidance provided, perhaps like a framework for people to, and of course, those didn't really materialize in the beginning. So as educators, we're kind of creating our own, which is great. Why the opportunity to participate with you in the survey was so helpful because it really has informed our advocacy and our calls for action at the policy level.
If you look at what China's saying, they're saying, well, our kids need to know about AI. If you look at what the U.S. is saying, our kids need to know about AI. I just saw a report come out of Canada, and they're taking moves to try to bring more artificial intelligence knowledge in-house. Saudi Arabia, same thing, because everybody realizes the strategic importance, but it's changing so fast. There's this big strategic issue, but I almost wonder if there's not a bigger strategic issue of kids who are not going to have the domain knowledge they need to
Yes.
supervise artificial
Yes.
intelligence, because none of us want to feel like we're wasting our time in education. We got into education to make a difference.
I do agree with you that this is not a nice to have thing anymore. And that's one of the good news stories, And I think the focus is shifted more to like, okay, so how are we really using the tools that are provided? How are we helping kids learn how to use the tools? And now, like, how can we leverage the technology to be to tackle more complicated things? Our members talk a lot about, we just need more time. We need more resources. Of course, we always need more resources, but really the number one was time. But that's something that folks that are not in education don't understand, is how important it is for educators to have dedicated time to plan and collaborate. Like, so many good things come out of really well-planned and well-resourced, dedicated time for planning and collaboration. When done well, it's super powerful.
It's no surprise to me that 40% said we want time for staff training and planning.
This is the most important profession on the planet, raising the next generation of our future of the country. Like, our most precious natural resource, everybody's most prized loved one in their family comes to school, and we're raising them to be the next leadership of the country. I don't know what's more important than that. The amount of stuff that our teachers and principals and support staff have to carry. And then people just, rightly so, the world expects us to deliver more. But folks, we need to reinvest in those people. We need to continue to invest in folks so that they can continue to be the cutting edge, amazing people that they are in the field. And every one of your subscribers is doing amazing things in their local schools and in their jurisdictions. And they probably don't really take the time to show all that, because that's just what they do. And I don't want to change that. I think we should always stay humble, but I do think we need to explain a little bit more so people understand that it takes quite a bit to make it look that simple.
Well, let's go back to our survey for a second. Was there anything surprising that you read in either the open-ended comments or in the results that you were like, oh my, I did not know that people felt this way?
The open responses were really interesting because they were such a range, right? As we've seen. Not necessarily a surprise, but I was really thrilled to see some of the innovative things that are happening. Like, I'm sure you do too, have the great pleasure of interacting with all kinds of amazing people. And we find out all these things that are happening in schools. But it was really nice to see school leaders, sort of talking about some of the cool things that they're doing. There are amazing things happening in schools, and to see them shouting out their amazing teacher leaders and the amazing teachers on their staff and the kind of work they're doing was really heartwarming. So not necessarily a surprise, but sometimes we can get so caught up in the craziness and busyness of the world. You got to slow down sometimes and take a look at what is really happening. And it was wonderful to sort of read those and feel really proud of the incredible efforts that are happening across the country.
I agree with you. The thing that was surprising to me was how much it seemed like administrators were leaning on their teachers.
Yeah.
And that teachers were working with administrators, that this artificial intelligence thing is moving so rapidly that the schools who seem to be figuring it out are figuring it out together. It's not like somebody's in the front office saying, do this, or there's a Lone Ranger teacher. It's kind of like people coming together saying, hey, we don't know what to do, but we're going to figure it out together. That is encouraging.
Back in the Department of Education in Hawaii, we used to say all the time that we could solve any problem. We just needed the time and space to involve folks. Back then, as the state deputy, I had a teacher roundtable. They were amazing. The teacher leaders solved so many problems in our system. You just invest in them, give them the time. And then did the same thing with the principals, had a principal roundtable, and they solved a whole bunch of problems too. If you're a teacher, don't ever say, I'm just that. You're not just that. You're an amazing, life-changing individual who is shaping the future of our country. Let's not forget that. And same for principals. When people get out of that and they start realizing that this is a we thing, we're all in it together, that's where the real magic happens. To the non-educators, it's not really magic. It's pain and suffering and sacrifice and struggle. But it looks like magic on the outside because a bunch of people who might not be on the same page get together, they exchange their ideas, they come up with a plan, and then they roll out with that plan. And when everybody's at the table like that, the solution's always better.
So, Ron, as people are listening to you and they're thinking about their principals at their schools, What are some of the things that you wish more people knew about how to support their principal?
First of all, the best way to support your principal is to be the amazing educator that all of your subscribers are. So that's the greatest gift that any teacher can quote unquote give to their school and their community and their principal is just be the best educator you could possibly be. That makes everybody's life so much easier.
Mm-hmm.
That's one. Number two, being the kind of educator that is a team player, but also has the relationship to speak with your principal offline and say, hey, principal so and so, I understand where we're going. I can help us get there in a more effective and efficient way if you just give me some space. Sometimes principals don't know that that's how the teachers feel. Sometimes it can be perceived as, well, we're not on the same page. Well, sometimes the teacher has to let the principal know, I'm willing to help us get there. You just got to give me some space. So,
Mm-hmm.
that's not how we were raised in teacher school, right? Like we didn't come up like that. We're supposed to be good soldiers back then. And I think that soldier mentality is probably not the best analogy for schools because what we're trying to do is raise a bunch of leaders, right? We want teacher leaders. We want folks who have a sense of agency and a sense of efficacy. Sometimes a teacher may have to sort of open that door and bridge that. Sometimes a principal will do that, which is wonderful, and we love that. But sometimes an educator has to come and say, hey, principal so-and-so or assistant principal so-and-so, if you just put me in, I might be able to help a little bit. I really do want to I see the value of this thing that we're trying to do. It's just not hitting with my fellow teachers. And so I can help you make that relevant. And I think that those little things, that's not a huge change, but that little change could actually be a huge impact on the
Mm-hmm.
receiving end, on the output end. So that would be one piece of advice is teachers don't be afraid to approach your principal. Now, probably not the best thing to raise your hand in a faculty meeting and say that out loud. You might want to have that
No, no.
conversation privately. That for principals who are trying to figure it out, I would welcome that. Like if someone said, hey, Ron, I'm thinking about this thing and I have some ideas about how to help make it better. I welcome that stuff all day. That would be a piece of advice I'd give to your listeners about how to help move things forward in your school.
I think of my first year or two of teaching. It was not great. I made a lot of mistakes, but
Hey,
I had people who invested in me and helped me progress. And I hear so many stories of remarkable principals who will look at you in the eye, Ron, and say, I was a terrible principal my first couple of years.
yeah,
The whole idea is that we can learn. We can take people who don't know anything and then we can help them learn. But we can also be the people who learn and need to learn
yes,
together as we move forward because I can't tell you how many times in the last few years I'll sit there shaking my head with my principal going, okay, I've literally never heard of this before. This issue that we're dealing with, where did this come from? This is a new one on me. And we have so much new
yeah,
territory. So,
yeah.
Ron, as we finish up, what's your word of encouragement to principals?
Keep fighting the good fight. To every principal out there, your whole community is counting on you, but you don't have to do this alone. You have an amazing team of educators on your campus. Empower them, elevate them, give them the space and the resources to have those conversations that they need to have. But you don't have to be alone. You have a whole school community that can be your buddy and partner in this effort. You have a state association and our affiliate and a national association that's got your back. And then to the teachers that are tuning in, you keep fighting the good fight too. You're needed and loved and appreciated. And, sometimes it may not feel like that, but as my dad used to say, son, don't even worry about it. The people who need to know. So to all your listeners and subscribers out there, the National Association of Secondary School Principals knows how important excellent teachers are to the quality of a school. And we're all about elevating and supporting you. We're trying to raise the next generation of students in our student leadership programs who will become the next generation of teachers. Because we know that if we inspire them at an early age, they will look at education in a different light.
Today, we've been talking with Ronn Nozoe. Thank you for supporting all of our mini shows we have here, Cool Cat Teacher Talk and the 10-Minute Teacher, by sending your award-winning NASSP Principals of the Year to share their stories. And thanks for doing the survey. And I hope that everybody listening will realize that this artificial intelligence issue is something everybody's grappling with, but that the best schools seem to be building partnerships between administration and teachers. Thanks, Ron, for coming on the show. Thank you, Ellis, for sponsoring this week's shows on the 10-Minute Teacher. Ellis is a free tool for K-12 educators from the Children's Health Council. Here's how it works. You type in what actually happened with a student, what you saw, what you already tried, and where you're stuck. Then Ellis gives you practical, evidence-aligned next steps from a knowledge base of content from trusted partners like CASEL, Understood, and others. Ellis gives you information, not clinical advice, and it doesn't collect personally identifiable student information. It's a far better place to start than general-purpose AI tools because Ellis isn't pulling from the open internet. So the next time you leave school still thinking about that one student, go to coolcatteacher.com/Ellis. That's coolcatteacher.com/Ellis. Thanks for tuning in to the 10-Minute Teacher Podcast. Watch the video version of this podcast and catch my new radio and TV show, Cool Cat Teacher Talk, on YouTube and a radio or TV station near you. Join my Cool Cat Teacher Classroom Matters newsletter at coolcatteacher.com/newsletter. Leave a review if you found this helpful. See you later, educator.